but the preparation is like, almost like over preparation because these are the moments when one mistake can cost you the game. These games always come down to the wire.
And welcome into Touchdown Live. As always, I am Matthew Travis.
And Jones certainly has a lot of chemistry here with Hereford. Goes to McGinn.
McMillon is Smith in the tackle for Alabama.
The M3 show.
It's not always good for the quarterback on the other side to be talking stuff so early in the game.
Look, I don't have a kid on the way this week, but it's almost time for Alabama football season, baby.
Welcome back to another episode of the M3 Show, episode 14 of the M3 Show. We got a lot to talk about. The Iron Bowl. Alabama gets the sixth straight Iron Bowl victory, 27-20 at Auburn, their third straight win in Jordan-Hare. Wild game that we'll get into, and of course, Alabama is playing for a title this week, playing Georgia and Atlanta for the SEC championship. Everything on the line. We'll dive into what is on the line. Can Alabama make the college football playoff with a loss? I say let's just win and figure it out from there, but we'll get into all of that. But guys, Alabama, 6 in a row over Auburn. Your thoughts right off the top on that, Mac?
Yeah, I would say, I'm going to speak to the offense. I think Ty Simpson, people have been kind of slandering him throughout the season, saying that he's looked less and less good throughout the year. In this game in particular, I think he was super excited, which, I expected. I think we all expected, knowing he's a guy who's Alabama through and through, knows the importance of this game, playing in Jordan-Hare Stadium. That's going to happen, but would have loved to see him get a little bit more settled in. The run game looked pretty efficient with Jam in there. The run lanes were opened up a little bit more from the offensive line. Haven't seen that as much this season, so it was exciting to see that for the run game. Hated seeing Jam go out with an injury. And then I loved, from the receiver standpoint or point of view, Isaiah Horton balling out, Nashville native. I know who trains him down here, and I've met Isaiah, so getting to see him ball out was really exciting. Made that deep catch in the back of the end zone. And consistently just showing up. It was a guy we didn't talk about preseason. We're talking about Jeremy Bernard. We're talking about Ryan Williams. We're talking about Lottie Brooks. But now we're talking about Isaiah Horton. So it gives me a lot of excitement for the future of the Tide wide receiver group, the rideouts, as we called ourselves back in the day. And then last but not least, man, got to give a huge shout out to the legend, Connor Talty, draining them left and right, kicking those things like it was his day job.
He was hammering them, huh, Mac?
people
slinging that thing through the uprights.
People on the pod have been talking about Talty. I'm not going to make any names. People have been saying this. People have been saying that. Talty showed
I think that
up.
guy you're talking about he never inserted his opinion. I think he was just stating facts, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know who that guy on the pod was.
He was stating facts, but I'm stating facts as well. Talty, you're out there. Keep kicking that thing. Keep, using your foot in certain dynamics and dimensions to make that thing go through the uprights. Love to see him bounce back into the season because it was a critical time. We needed it. It was a must-win game. Huge rivalry game. It means a lot to the fans and to the people who've been to the university. So those are my thoughts. And then just the last drive was exciting. Bold move by the coaching staff, and, to finish off and capitalize. The number one thing with Ty that I love in this whole entire Alabama team that's been preached by this show all year is resiliency, which is important to me, and love getting to see that. So excited for the win. I was watching at the Finnick in Birmingham, great spot, and got pretty lit during the game. But
Okay.
The Tide rolled.
Couple tequila shots for you, Mac.
Let's just say Mac had to rely on watching game tape after the game ended to give his full analysis on the game. But yeah, Mac, you mentioned it there. The fourth down, I was scared shitless seeing the offense run back out there, not Connor Talty. 20-20. If you don't get it, chances are you're probably losing that game. Alabama obviously gets the forced fumble recovery. Game ends with that. Well, they got the ball back with 10 seconds left, but the ball is on Kalen DeBoer to make that decision to go for it. Ultimately, It was 4th and 2. We could have gotten a first down without having to get the touchdown. It was essentially 4th and goal for the most part. But his quote post game, I don't know if you guys saw this. Last time Alabama was in Jordan-Hare, we obviously we had the 4th and 31 to Isaiah Bond to win the game, and Kalen DeBoer's quote was, "I figured it was 29 yards less than we needed last time, so the chances are it's probably higher percentage." Just that decision scared the hell out of me. I was blowing up the group chat saying it was a dumb decision. It worked, but it was still a dumb decision. Thank
Yeah.
God we got it because I genuinely believe we don't get it there. It gets batted down, still 20-20. Auburn is going to score on that drive. The everything momentum, everything behind them. That stadium was rocking as it normally is, even when they're 2-10, whatever it might be. The Auburn fan base, I'll give them their props in this regard. They get up for their team no matter what.
For
And
sure.
that environment on Saturday was unbelievable. So you don't get that. Chances are, I have a good feeling they're going to go down there and score. But Josh, they didn't. Alabama scored. Alabama won 27-20. Six straight over Auburn. Your thoughts on that as a whole, winning six straight versus our rivals?
Man, just to start off, it's an emotional game, and we all know it. It's the Iron Bowl, and it's just something that I feel like every year the intensity of this game and the emotions around this game gets built up, regardless what the record is of any of these teams. Auburn didn't have as successful of a year, losing their head coach, but it doesn't matter when any time that these two teams come together, like it's gonna be a fallout battle, and it was nothing unexpected for me. I felt like the defensive guys did a really, really good job. It wasn't more of an offensive show, but defensive guys really stepped up. Big shout out to Bray Hubbard, got an interception, and in a critical moment got a turnover, and basically closed the game for us. So big shout out for him. He's really stepped up, especially since the first couple of games. I know I may have said a thing or two about him having a loaf earlier on in the podcast, but like, I mean, he's totally done the whole 360, and I think this guy, he can possibly come out right now. He is a top 32 draft pick coming up in this draft. I felt like we got the running game established real early. Jam Miller got things going. Unfortunately, he ended the game with an injury, but we really didn't see too much from Daniel Hill. I mean, it is what it is. Think things couldn't get going offensively, but I felt like the defensive staff got things together and really got these guys going. And they were essentially, we leaned on them heavily in special teams. Like Max said, Connor Talty, he really stepped up for big plays, even though, he had the up and downs and he got booed in his own home stadium. He didn't let that adversity hit him. And, that's what it's all about. I feel like the motto with these guys is finding a way to win and finding a way to finish. And I felt like we showed a great example of that this weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. And we will get to the SEC title game here in a little bit. We hit on a lot of the good from the win,
Mhm.
but that game is ugly. Alabama had chance after chance after chance to blow that game wide open. We led 17-0 at one point. We had six three and outs in that game. Six. Ty Simpson had his worst game of the season to this point, 19 for 35, 122 yards, three touchdowns, just a lot of missed throws. A lot of the play calling just felt bad. I don't know what other way to put it. Ryan
And
Grubb was on the field for Eastern Illinois. He was on the field for this game. I don't know if maybe that has something to do about it. There hasn't been a whole lot of talk about that, but they were trying to switch something up with him being on the field just to switch it up, see what happens. I don't think that's working. I think the offense looked a lot more dynamic with him in the booth. I don't know if you can see the all 22 can see the game better, whatever it is. I think that has something to do with it. Just the offense just looked flat a lot of the time, and down the stretch we did the same thing we did against South Carolina that ultimately we overcame. We did it against Oklahoma. We didn't overcome it that time. We were just running the hell out of the clock in the fourth quarter,
yeah,
playing like we had way more time than we had, and we had to burn timeouts. So we had to burn a timeout right after the right at the start of the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken, or right after a media timeout. We couldn't get a playoff. right out of a timeout. That just cannot happen. It was things like that that should have bit us in the ass. Alabama should not have won that game. We had every opportunity to win that game, but how the offense was running, the time they were taking off the clock, Auburn should have won that game. When you're looking at the total length of offense, the defense, yes, they had an interception, Bray Hubbard. They had the forced fumble that obviously won the game at the end. They allowed 411 total yards. 411. The offense only had 278 total yards. It's literally what happened in the Oklahoma game, except we were Oklahoma and we won when we were the worst offensive team. Auburn was Alabama in this case, better offensive team and lost.
For
So
sure.
the good news is we're playing for an SEC title this week. Alabama won the football game, but those are just terrible, terrible signs. And if you play that way against Georgia this week, it will not be the same outcome. The good news is Alabama beat Georgia this season, so we have that to hang on. But Georgia has a lot of fire under their ass to win this. They've lost three straight versus Alabama. They're what I believe. They've never beaten Alabama in the SEC title game, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot on the line, and we'll get to that here in a second. But want to wrap up the Iron Bowl, and I'll start with you, Josh. Just your key takeaways, whether it be good, bad, ugly, whatever they might be, from the win over Auburn.
Well, before we go into that, I want to really recognize the elephant in the room. Like Ryan Williams did not have a reception in this game. Mac, what is going on from this guy? I mean, German Bernard production has been a little down. We saw him have more receptions early on in the season. What is going? What can you see? I understand. People say, "Oh, this is his sophomore slump." Maybe he's not as good as we thought he was going to be. He was just like a little freshman ball out. He's not going to be or live up to their expectations. Like, what do you expect to see, or what do you think that is going on with Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, and this offensive team?
Yeah, I mean, I'll focus on Ryan rather than Jeremy because Jeremy's had a great season all season, and whereas the past couple of games hasn't been as productive. But Ryan's a guy who all season I would say, besides a few games, has not really panned out to what everyone wanted him to be or expected him to be this year. I was watching something the other day, and I was like looking over it, and just personal thoughts is just like one that at the beginning of the season, y'all know they forced him to play a different wide receiver position than the previous year. It's a whole different game. I mean, you should be able to do it all at the level that he is, but personally, from moving from slot to outside, the routes are different. Recognizing space, how you're supposed to move, the pressure from the secondary that you're supposed to play against is all different. So that's one thing is he was forced to do something different from the beginning of the season. That along with the pressure that he had, and also his, I'm a guy. I had a big social media following at Alabama, and loved like building a brand, which I think is very important, especially in today's age, with NIL. But I think Ryan Williams, it kind of got to the line where it's like, you got to keep the main thing the main thing. And even I prided myself. People all the time maybe thought that, hey, I was posting too much or doing this too much. For me, the main thing was football. I was studying my plays. I was working my ass off every single day. Not saying that he's not doing that, but I think these are factors. Okay, you put yourself up there on this grand stage. You're at the national level. You've come out. You have this incredible first season as a freshman. You got all this hype. You've got all this attention around you. So leading up to that, you expect yourself to perform. And being placed in a different position, and then you have a couple of key drops in the first games. Your confidence gets a huge hit. And I think bouncing back from that, like the whole world telling you, you're not the same guy you were. What are you doing? You can imagine like the toll it would have on you, Josh, or me when we were playing is like it'd be tremendous. I remember like people say you don't look into that stuff much, but like I looked into it. Like whenever someone make a comment about me, whether it's on me playing on the field or something I did wrong or whatever, I definitely took offense more than I should because words sometimes can be frustrating and can definitely affect you. So I think a combination of multiple different factors with his confidence and maybe there's personal issues that we don't know about going on. He hasn't been
Mhm.
that same guy this year. He's had drops. And if I had to guess, I would say it's a combination of new position, having a new role in the team, and then the confidence. Like I think that it's as simple as that. He has the talent. He's an incredible wide receiver. I hope he stays at Alabama. I hope he balls out in the SEC championship. I hope that in the playoffs, God forbid we stay in the playoffs, even after the result of this game. I hope that we see him really pick that confidence back up. But I think it could be a variety of factors of all that kind of stuff, all the pressure coming into the season, with a slight like kind of mishaps in the beginning games. Because as a receiver myself, like I've been through times where I was mentally in my head and like, I pride myself on my hands and ability to catch, and I know I can catch almost any ball that touches my hands. But at the end of the day, it's like golf to me. It's so mental,
Yeah.
and it's something so easy, but like mentally, if you're not there or stuff's affecting you from off the field, then it can hurt you a little bit. So and obviously the play calling too that we've talked about offensively. So there's a lot of factors. I can't say unless I were to be in Ryan's shoes 100% what it would be. But I hurt for him because he's a kid. You know what I'm saying? He's still young, and he's a
Yeah.
great guy. He's very young. And there's a lot of people, fans and other people and analysts and speculators saying like he's not this guy anymore. Like, nah, he's still Ryan Williams. He's still that freak athlete. He's going to bounce back. It's just a matter of time. But it just hasn't been the season we wanted him to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say this, it almost looked like he was getting disciplined. And I don't know if that's the case. I'm not going to speculate and say that is for sure the case because I don't know that. But he had the fourth most offensive snaps among our wide receivers in a game where we were missing one of our bigger targets in Josh Cuevas, and we needed someone to fill that role, and nobody did. Jeremy Bernard had 70 snaps, Isaiah Horton had 53, Lottie Brooks had 39, and Ryan Williams had 38. So clearly it's not just like Ryan isn't just not playing well because he's not getting those opportunities. He wasn't targeted a single time, and obviously, if you're not targeted, you don't have a catch. So I don't know, to Mac's point, I don't know if there's something going on that's not being talked about, and we're not going to speculate. That's not what we're here to do. But it's not just that he hasn't been playing well because obviously he had a couple drops earlier in the year, but he also had games where he looked like Ryan Williams. So I don't know what's going on, but Alabama could definitely benefit from getting a player like Ryan Williams back, considering our quarterback just had his worst game of the year, throwing for 122 yards. So could definitely use that.
Matthew,
Doesn't
yeah. So I was just going to add one thing too that like another obvious point is look at the wide receiver room. It's
Yep.
stacked.
Yeah.
It's hard to get every single person the ball, and I think too that people forget like the job of a good receiver. I remember and on scout team, like hell, I hated doing it, but a lot
Hmm.
of times I got to run a post on the other side, and I got to take the safety with me and the DB, and I ain't the one that the ball is going to, and I've got to run it fast, and that's just my job. So there's other times too where like there's such a wide variety of talent, the wide receiver position that you know people should be looking at a lot of things he's doing when he's not targeted,
Yeah.
because a lot of that's probably into the scheme and the game plan as well.
For sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
no doubt. And just wrapping it up, Josh, your main takeaways from the Iron Bowl victory going into the SEC title game.
Main takeaways, I feel like offensively, we kind of got to get some things established. As far as the passing game, I felt like the time between the quarterback and the wide receivers wasn't always there. Something I definitely spoke about earlier in the season. Just felt like Ty didn't have the same poise and confidence in his throwing capability, and sometimes when he was looking for his wide receivers, he overthrew them or he underthrew them. So I felt like when we can get that consistency back on track like we did earlier in the season, that would be great. Felt like we kind of got things going running with the running game. I feel like it's a bit. Hopefully, we can get Jam back before this game. I don't know if there's been anything released, but it's kind of looking like Daniel will be, the leader in that field. Definitely looking to see Riley Deer back there to make some explosive plays. Getting those guys in there and keeping a fresh back in there would definitely help this offense a ton. We want to keep the ball in our hands. We want to keep a good field position at all times and kind of keep the defensive side off of the field. I feel like that'll be great. Defensively, I feel like we're moving on the right track. We're creating turnovers. In those big critical moments, we are making those plays when our number is being called. Bray Hubbard, Deontay Lawson, um, just about everybody on that defensive side. When our name is being called, when we need that big sack, when we need that turnover, we need that interception. Like guys are stepping up and making these plays. So I feel like on the defensive side, we just need to be ourselves. We don't need to do anything spectacular. We just need to find that way to win. And, special teams, I can definitely see this being a crucial team that we would have to lean on heavily because Georgia has a really, really good defense. They're going to do everything they can to stop us offensively. They're going to have those trick plays, they're going to have those explosive plays, and we're going to have to rely on Talty to make those long kicks when, the offense is struggling. So I feel like, my thoughts is we just have to be ourselves. We have to live up to the standard and we have to do whatever it takes because it's going to be hard beating a team twice in the same season. Like it kind of hasn't been done before, and if it has, it's been one of those things. So I feel like it's going to take every position, every team to go in and win this SEC championship.
No doubt. And Max, same question to you. Your takeaways from the Iron Bowl victory.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was like you said, it wasn't our prettiest game. I mean, we didn't even mention the fact of Auburn saving us multiple times. The drops. Talk about drops. Wide
The
receiver
penalties,
position.
it was like penalties left and right. They just constantly kept the offensive drive going. I was just like, we just keep getting saved. It was ridiculous.
Refs were
Yeah,
terrible on
it
both sides, but they came to our side a couple times towards the end, and they were the right calls. But
Yeah.
Auburn just kept, to your point, Mac, they just kept messing up even on that final drive.
No, and it's like the amount of balls I saw just hit receivers' chest. I'm like, thank God, for us, the Alabama side. But it wasn't a great win. But I'll always end on every single game I think I've talked about, and it's cheesy and it's whatever, but it's the resiliency part that like we got to win, we got a W, whether it was like well deserved or we won that and Auburn didn't lose that game it was a win. And I think that just it was good that we got out of there alive and that we got out of there with the W leading into the SEC championship because that was a must win game. So
Yeah.
it's exciting to see we're on to the next one, 1-0 next week. So wasn't the prettiest thing, but and there were some things that I loved from it. And you can still see, like I said, it wasn't the best play from Ty, but like you have plays like that dart to the back of the end zone. It's like, dude, that's an NFL caliber pass. Like he can do it. And there's speculations about him and his health. I'm not going to speculate, like you said, but I'm just saying there's things out there we don't know the whole story or everything, but I think he's still been a great quarterback, and I'm glad to have Ty Simpson as the guy at Alabama.
Yeah, no doubt. And this, there's a running joke in Alabama Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, that it's always a tale of two halves. And it's because Avery Johnson used to say that it goes back forever for basketball, but this game is a perfect representation of that. If you guys had other stuff going on. If you had to guess how many yards Alabama allowed in the first quarter, how many would you say? First quarter.
200.
How many did Alabama allow in the first quarter?
Not 200. You said first. I thought you said first half. Maybe
First quarter.
a buck 25.
Mac?
I have no freaking clue.
Alabama allowed 1 yard in the first quarter.
Oh,
Holy Mother Teresa!
One
really?
Guess
single
my
yard.
answer is better than Josh's.
One.
Okay.
Buck 25
Auburn
to 1.
Auburn's first drive, a -1 yard three and out. Second drive, a 0 yard three and out. A 22-second drive, by the way. And their third drive was a 2 yard three and out. So the fact that we went from that to the final three quarters allowing 410 yards, I don't know what changed. And even if you look at the second quarter, Auburn turnover on down, 7 plays, 17 yards, three and out, 8 yards, 10 plays, 43-yard field goal, 10 plays, 48 yards field goal. So to go from that, and especially to go from 1 yard in the first quarter to allowing what happened in the second quarter to transpire, where I was, I, I joked on Twitter and I think I sent it in the group chat. In the fourth quarter, it felt like I just chugged 7 straight 5 hour energies. I could feel my heart beating against my chest. That's how scared I was because everything was to play for, and obviously everything is still to play for. But the second half, it just was not Alabama football. I don't know. In the past, Alabama tends to get comfortable with a lead and they play like they're trying to maintain that lead instead of
Mhm.
playing like they have how they played to get that lead. And that's
Mhm.
a tale for another time. And we always talk about Kalen DeBoer playing down to his opponents. We've seen it this year too. We saw it this week. We saw it at South Carolina. We've seen it in other games where it seems like we played down to opponents. But the good news is Alabama won. You just cannot play like that if you want to beat Georgia and win another SEC title. So let's talk about it. Alabama going back to the SEC championship. The fifth time we've seen these two play. Alabama in the SEC title. Alabama 4-0 in those four SEC title games, by the way. Going to Bryant-Denny East, Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta. And it's an interesting game. Since their game in September, Alabama's 7-1, 2-1 versus currently ranked teams. Obviously, the loss to Oklahoma being the outlier. Georgia is 8-0 since that game, 2-0 versus currently ranked teams. They beat Ole Miss, had to come back to win that one 43-35 at home, and then blew out Texas 35-10 also at home. Georgia's playing well, but Alabama did some things in that game. We've talked a lot about the defense. The thing that sticks out to me from that game, Alabama held Gunnar Stockton to 130 yards. Until this past weekend, that was his fewest of the season. He threw for 70 this week against Georgia Tech. So to me, that's the major key. You got to contain Gunnar Stockton. He's been susceptible to throw a pick from time to time. He didn't have it, obviously didn't have a good game against Alabama, threw for 130 yards. But so the key is going to be quarterback play on both sides. We don't know what Jam is going to look like. It sounds Kalen Bohr said Josh Cuevas not expected back. So Ty is going to have to figure it out. We're going to need Ryan Williams. We're going to need Jeremy Bernard. Isaiah Horton had a great game the last time we played Georgia. 5 receptions, 65 yards, a touchdown. So those are the things that need to happen. Ty was 24 for 38, 276 with 2 touchdowns against Georgia. You need to do that again. You can't throw for 122 yards. You need to get Ryan involved. You need to get Jeremy involved. You need to get all of them involved. So Josh, looking at this game, what are you looking at? I ask this every week. What does Alabama need to do in order to win this game?
Well, I think you said it yourself. We definitely have to affect the quarterback. We could not make them feel comfortable, especially with them feeling like, hey, we're close to home. We have the home field advantage. I think it's going to take the defensive side of the ball to really step up. I don't think we had too many sacks in that game. Really didn't
Two.
have we really didn't have too many turnovers. So I feel like where we were then compared to where we are now is a completely different team. Like we're forcing those turnovers. We're making the ball carrier pay, and we're making the quarterback pay when the ball is in the air. So I feel like if we are as effective as we've been in the past, well, as we've been now since we played that game, we're going to do great things. We're going to hold him to under 200 yards. We're going to affect the running back and make sure that he's not getting 4 and 5 yards each carry. So that's my expectation. And offensively, we had the big Caden Proctor play. I can definitely see Ryan Grubb putting all cards on the table. Ryan Williams had a ball out game his freshman year against Georgia, and I can see him being fit into that offensive scheme. And, he's been kind of the talk of the nation. He's not as productive as he's been in the past. He hasn't been doing this. He hasn't been doing that. I feel like this is the perfect time. This is the perfect moment for him to be structured into this offensive scheme to make a lot of explosive plays. So I feel like that's kind of sort of where we're going. And even if, they're going to double cover him, I can see Kirby doing that for sure. They want to eliminate the best receiver. Like Max said earlier, we have ball out guys in the wide receiver core. Lottie Brooks, Isaiah Horton, all those guys in that room. I don't want to leave anyone out, but I can't remember all the names right now. But I think we can be effective in the passing game, and we can give Ty outlets to be able to be great and have success in this game. Special teams, like I said, we're gonna have to rely on Connor Talty. He's gonna be the guy that's gonna change the narrative of the whole game. He's gonna have to make all his field goals, all the extra points. He's gonna have to be perfect, and he hasn't been in the past. But this is the game where he cannot have any mistakes.
Yeah, same thing to you, Mac. What does Alabama have to do to beat Georgia?
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it a little bit. Josh talked about it as well. Gunnar Stockton is a solid quarterback. He's a dual threat too. We need to like stop him from the run, contain him. I think Georgia's deep or offensive line's a little bit banged up, so we need to get some pressure there, force them to be one dimensional, like some third and long type style plays, and get them to have to force to throw it because their run game is pretty solid. And then on the Alabama side, I think we've got to turn some of those field goals in the red zones into touchdowns. We got to convert in critical situational football. Ty, I think just getting him warmed up. I remember I always loved how like Mac Jones when he was at quarterback, and I know that people compared the two to each other at certain points, but one of the things I loved when we did in that offense was start out with like shorter or intermediate passes to get the quarterback warmed up, get him in a rhythm because we need to start completing, give Ty enough time to feel comfortable back there, really get settled in so that the offense is established. I don't think we have to go pound for pound on the run game, but I think we just need to get him settled in. He's got to make good plays, and I think if Jam's out, that's a hit. But I'm very confident in the rest of the backfield, as well as the wide receiver core. I mean, Josh stole it right out of my mouth, but basically the fact of you know Alabama is got such a dynamic group of wide receivers that it almost makes it a challenge because one week you put more pressure on Horton after this game we can go right back to Jeremy or Lottie or Ryan. You put more pressure on Ryan this game, you can go back to the others. So I love the dynamic ability we have on the offensive side with that. But yeah, I think playing a complete football game and managing the clock, and then importantly, like y'all both mentioned, Talty and the special teams has got to be there. But what I would ideally like to see is that we don't have to depend on that. Like I said, I think we're going to need some of those red zones opportunities instead of field goals and being stopped touchdown. That's what's going to decide the game, as well as forcing some turnovers. You mentioned it, that if we force Stockton to turn over the football, that's how Alabama's going to win this football game. So overall, I'm looking forward to it. It's hard to beat a team twice, is the thing that I'll say, but looking forward to Alabama going in there and taking over the dome.
Hard to beat a team twice, but Alabama's been pretty good at it when it comes to Georgia. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I talked about Gunnar Stockton, but where they lacked it in the pass game, they made up for it in the run game versus Alabama. Alabama had no answers for them in that game. They ran for 227 yards and two touchdowns against us last game. And I remember sitting here watching it, and they just kept running to the left edge and getting right around us and getting to the sideline and just breaking off long runs. So it's really going to be an interesting game, and it's really gonna come down to the defense. I have a lot of confidence in Ty, despite his recent performance, to do what it takes to win. He did enough to win this week despite throwing for 122 yards, and I have confidence that he can be better than that, and we'll see. LT Overton, Justin Jefferson had great games last time out. Justin Jefferson had 8 tackles, 5 solo. LT had 6 tackles, 4 solo, a half sack, and a tackle for loss. So just really need them to step up, hopefully contain them on the ground and see what happens. It's the SEC championship. It's not supposed to be easy, but Alabama's fared pretty well in that city. So, and kind of going off that, you guys were both on teams that beat Georgia in the SEC title game. Also, we're on a team that beat Georgia in a national championship game in that same stadium. So,
Yes, sir.
Josh, just your experience going really just playing in SEC championship games overall, what that feeling is like preparing for that game.
I mean, it's an unreal feeling. You work all season to try to get to this moment, and here you are. And we tend to keep our mind on the track. Our overall goal is winning a national championship. So we are super focused, tunnel vision. Nothing really changes, but the preparation is almost like over preparation because these are the moments when one mistake can cost you the game. These games always come down to the wire, and it's always within the fourth quarter when it kind of changed the trajectory of the whole game. You can have one penalty, you can have one explosive play, you can have one turnover that can essentially set you up. And there's always a deciding factor. And some of the games has been, Tua coming in for Jalen, Jalen coming in for Tua. The deep ball from Tua to Devontae Smith. There are defining moments in each of these games that really show like, hey, look, we are a fourth quarter team. We are here to perform at a very high level and dominate our opponent. So, I mean, it's always a great feeling, and you always know that you're coming in for war, and it's not gonna be over until that scoreboard turns 0-0. Well, the minutes is 0-0. But I mean, I feel like it's not going to be anything different here. We've always been into a battle, and it's been drawn out every time we play Georgia. They're always been a good team. Kirby has been great. Schumann has been great over there. So it's nothing unexpected. I think that these guys are going into this game and thinking like, hey, look, we're gonna have to go press them. We're gonna have to do everything we can to win this and just find a way to win. Like that has been the motto for this year. We just need to find a way to win.
Yeah, and Max, same thing. What is it like prepping for this game and then being part of a SEC champion team?
Yeah, I mean, the preparation during our time at Alabama was, I feel like, so similar. The stakes may be different, but the preparation was always the same under Coach Saban, which was awesome. But I would say just the experience of going to Atlanta. Obviously, Alabama's got a good record there, but the experience of being a player, getting to go and stay there. I remember when like the Martin Luther King Church. You get to do fun things with your teammates, and it was one of the more exciting parts of the year because it starts that kind of bowl season era. We're just there. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of media. There's a lot of hype, and we were always well prepared. And then speaking of the game, those experiences were something I'll never forget. Being an SEC champion, getting to be a part of those teams and the excitement, and it feels like a home game. Although Athens is in Georgia and Alabama and the University of Alabama is in Tuscaloosa, it feels like it's home to us. I think because of how successful we've been there, and it's easy for fans to travel. So it was always a ton of fun to be a part of that. And being an SEC champion is something I think we take for granted because during our time when Josh and I are playing, it's expected to be an SEC champion or national champion, but just looking back at it in the amount of years there are, it's something really, really special that I'll always cherish. So I hope those guys go in there with the same mindset. This is history. It feels like at Alabama, it's what we're supposed to do, and it's the only outcome. But they should be proud of themselves for being in that position and going and playing that game. And against Georgia, it was like Josh said. I'll never forget when Jalen Hurts came in for Tua, one of the most exciting games of my whole entire life because it was a full circle. It was like a movie moment. The guy who gets benched the year before and the natty comes back and gets to, ball out and take Alabama to a W against Georgia in that dome was an incredible storyline. So, yeah, excited for this weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. And we'll get to our picks here in a little while, but two things I want to hit on. First of which, looking at the college football playoff, Alabama finishes the regular season 10-2. There's a lot of questions about what happens with a win. Does Alabama get a bye? I tend to think yes, they would absolutely get a bye with a win, but also what happens with a loss. I think if Alabama gets blown out, obviously we get kept out, but I talked about this a lot last season because the whole thing last year was SMU lost in the ACC title game. They didn't beat anyone in the regular season. Alabama should be over them. I tweeted out last year Alabama doesn't deserve it. They lost 3 games. SMU did enough to play in an ACC championship game. Lost that game. They shouldn't be dinged for it. And I feel the same way. I'm a firm believer in this game shouldn't even count towards your record. It should be it's a championship game. The playoffs don't count towards your like when we're looking at the NFL or the MLB or the NHL, the NBA, whatever you want to do. The NFL, the Eagles, we're not talking about what their record was last year with the playoffs. So why are we talking this year? If Alabama loses this game, they're 10-3. No, they finished the regular season 10-2, and that shouldn't be dinged against them. But it if Alabama loses this game in a close game, Mac, do you think they will, and do you think they should still make the playoff?
Will they? I don't know. That's a tough. I don't want to be in that situation. Now, should they? Absolutely. If they're not in there after having the season they did, and with the wins that they've had, um, in the caliber of football team they are, the system is completely screwed to me. I mean, it's already not a great system. I think we can all agree on that there needs to be changes. I don't know what those changes should be, but I think if it's a close game, we'll still be in it. I hope we're still in it. I think it's just a biased answer, but there's a part of me that's like, damn, there's multiple teams that are just on the cusp, on the bubble, that maybe there's a case to be made that those teams could get in. But like I said, I think it would be very wrong to punish a team for going to play an extra game. Why would we want to go play? Could we opt out of the SEC championship? Would that be the move to be made, to be able to go to the playoffs? Which those are questions and thoughts that go through my head. So I believe they 1,000 gazillion% should make the playoffs, regardless of what the outcome of the game is, unless they go in there and get blown out, which I do not think would happen. Now, that's where you do get to the point, like, if a team were to go into their conference championship, and get absolutely, just bamboozled, and destroyed, there's an argument that they shouldn't be in it. But if it's a close game, in these conference championships, I believe that if both teams are already projected to be in, that they should remain. So, do I think Alabama will be in if we lose? I don't know. I think it does increase and make a difference on the amount we lose by if we do lose. But I think we 1,000% should be, regardless of the outcome.
Josh, what do you think?
We're a 10-2 team. I'm just gonna say that I don't feel as if we should. With me being a Alabama guy, I'm for the team, but like it goes back to what Coach Saban said. You have to do everything that you can to not leave that decision in others' hands. And I felt like we've constantly put ourselves in a position with the loss to Florida State, with the loss to Oklahoma, for the college football playoff committee to be able to make that decision to move us out. I feel like a loss this late in the season to an opponent, regardless if we played them already, and a really good opponent, it will totally make the determination. Hey, look, these guys don't deserve that position. We lost 2 games, and here we are. We lost our SEC division game. So it's just kind of like, I understand, I get it. We're 10, and it's just like an extra game, and it's to an opponent who's ranked higher than us. But on the other end, I am kind of with what other people think. Like, hey, look, these guys have struggled all year long. Like, it's been close games. Out of the games we won in the SEC division, we played Tennessee. It was a late score. I think when we played Vanderbilt, it was a late score to extend that lead past 7 points, but we've won all our games within 7 points. So it's just kind of like, and I get it. We aren't the team who we used to be. We don't have Tua. We don't have all these, you know, 4-5, or not 4-5, 4-4, 4-3 guys around us who can make those spectacular plays. I'm not downing the offensive receivers skills at all by any means, but those guys were first rounders, and Tua was a first rounder. These were spectacular players. So I feel like we haven't been as an explosive team on that offensive side as we've been in the past, and it shows with how many points we've been able to score on our opponents. So my feeling, I truly don't feel if it's a close game, or if we lose, we it's a possibility. If we lose, it's a possibility that we won't make it. So and that's just my opinion. I know others may think differently, but I find it hard for a three loss team to get in this college football playoff now.
But Josh, this is 3 loss from the SEC championship. This is we're playing a team that
SEC
we played
regular
twice.
season champion.
Yes,
I
yeah.
get I get
I mean, my thing is, look, if it's about the best teams in college football, Alabama should be in. Josh, I'll fight you until the death. Okay, we can go. We can go. I look. They have the
But has
talent. The
Alabama
talent
been
is
the
there.
best team each and every weekend? That's a hard say.
It,
Like, is are
but
there
that's not what the college football play. Look, the record
Each
in
and
the
every
in the
weekend. Yeah, I mean, there aren't 12 teams who have been better each and every weekend than Alabama.
I true, but I feel like
To
we
answer your
haven't.
question, no. Yeah, yes, Alabama is one of the 12 best if we're going by that metric. But here's the thing. I think unless Alabama loses by 14 or more, they'll be in. I think the committee set it up that way. There's a reason Alabama moved up to 9 this week ahead of Notre Dame. Notre Dame obviously does not have a conference championship to play in. They're an independent team. And I think the committee did that knowing that if Alabama doesn't get blown out, they will still make the playoff as a 10. Here's where it gets interesting. If BYU beats Texas Tech, BYU is guaranteed. Texas Tech will still make it. They're 11-1. They're the current fourth ranked team in the nation. Texas Tech will still make it. So that pushes us down a peg again. So we have to root for Texas Tech. That's the easy answer. But I think, again, unless we lose by 14 or more, Alabama will make it. I don't think they should be dinged unless they get blown out and don't look like they're capable. People who are talking about Texas, get that out of here. They already have 3 losses, aren't playing in the SEC title game. Yes, they lost to Ohio State and they chose to play that game, but they also lost at Florida. Alabama lost at Florida State, yes, but they didn't lose 2 games on top of that. So Texas won't make it. Vanderbilt's now below Texas. Vanderbilt's not going to make it. Where it gets interesting is what do you
Ha
do with
ha,
my
man. No, no.
I was
where it
going to
gets
say the
in,
only team I'd make an argument for is Vanderbilt being in there,
Whatever.
but it
but
gets
not over
interesting with
Alabama.
Vanderbilt because Vanderbilt doesn't have a win over a currently ranked team. So that's where it gets interesting. Yes, they beat South Carolina when they were ranked, Tennessee when they were ranked, Missouri when they were ranked, but none of those teams, and the committee looks at currently ranked. So Vanderbilt doesn't have that win, and they lost to Texas. So it'll be interesting. Long story short, yes, unless they get blown out, Alabama will be in. Before we get to the picks, a couple shout outs. Shout out to Jamarcus Shepard, Alabama wide receivers, offensive coordinator, coach. He's going to Oregon State. Really cool press conference talking about what he's taken from Kalen DeBoer, just his mentality. Electric press conference. You should go watch it if you haven't already. But he coached in the Iron Bowl after accepting that job. He'll be on the sideline this week after being introduced. So really cool how they've handled it. Not how it's been handled over in Oxford, Mississippi, for obvious reasons. Very different scenario with them going to a rival. The Lane train is going down to Baton Rouge. Lane Kiffin, the new head coach there. And because of it, former defensive coordinator Pete Golding at Alabama is now the head coach at Ole Miss. So, really interesting situation there. Bunch of SEC teams have new head coaches. Kentucky hired the Oregon offensive coordinator. Arkansas hired Memphis head coach Ryan Silverfield. Florida hired John Sumrall from Tulane, who was at Troy, and Auburn hired Alex Golish from USF. So a lot going on. But Josh, you're pretty hyped about your boy Pete Golding getting down there in Oxford, and he's going to coach in the college football playoff.
I know. I'm super excited for him. I would hate to see him in the playoffs because I mean he knows Alabama like the back of his hand. Like he is a defensive mastermind. I learned a lot from him during my last couple of years at the University of Alabama. I am so excited that he's in that position now. I feel like he is the right fit for a head coach there, and he's a player's coach. And I feel like that's a little bit of what these guys at Oxford need after they had that abrupt loss of their head coach. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I know I've experienced it enough at the University of Alabama. When you're good enough, you tend to lose your best coaches, and that's just how it goes. People get up for promotions, but big shout out to Pete. I am rooting for him, but if he's on the opposing tide, aside, I'm definitely rolling with the tide. So
Yeah, it'll be
Yeah,
interesting. You go ahead, back.
I was gonna say Matthew and look, Ole Miss, man. I don't want to discuss or go into depth. We could talk hours on the whole situation. I feel bad for those players and seeing Pete Golding come in and take charge, rally the troops. Anybody, and I'm saying I am right now. I'm rooting for Ole Miss in that playoff. They are
Yeah.
one of my teams that I'm going for. I'm cheering on. I feel like those are guys that deserve it, that deserve the support, and I want to see them do well. Again, I hope they don't play Alabama because I'll be rooting for the Tide. But otherwise, I really hope Ole Miss goes in there, and I think it's hard for anyone not to root for that program in the playoffs from what they've been through recently.
No doubt, and we'll break all the bracket down. Ole Miss will surely be in the college football playoff. We'll see if Alabama makes it, but we got some picks to get through. And Mac, you're creating some separation. 6-2 last week. You're 71, 48-1 overall. Josh, 2-6. 2-6. You're 66, 49-1. 5 games back of Mac. And not only that, I'm hot on your ass. I was 5-3 last week. I'm 1 game behind. We only have 6 games this week, so not a whole lot of ground to make up. Mac will surely be still in first next week. So let's get into it. First game, right off the top, the SEC title game. Alabama versus Georgia. Alabama, the ninth ranked team in the nation. Georgia, the third ranked team in the nation. The Tide are 10-2. One of those wins being against Georgia. Georgia 11-1. Obviously, the loss coming at or against Alabama at home. Georgia, a 2.5 point favorite, despite being 0-4 in SEC championship games against Alabama. And Mac, you're picking first all night. What do you got? Georgia, 2.5 point favorite versus Alabama.
Look, give me the picks all night. I know people are probably going to be tailing. I just want to say, record
Hey man,
wise,
stop with
what is
this
that?
sneak this, and I'm not for it. You ain't.
Hey,
I was
hold
focused
up,
on the turkey for Thanksgiving. I wasn't
hold up,
thinking it's cool.
hold up now.
Isn't there, wait,
71.
Mac,
Whoa.
real quick. Isn't there a sign in Mal Moore that says no excuses? I'm hearing a shit ton of excuses out of Josh's
I'm
mouth.
hearing a lot of excuses. Screw the turkey. If you're sharp and you're about the game and you know ball and you got ball knowledge, you don't miss. Mac Hereford, 71-48. Do you realize if you tailed me all season, if you're watching this podcast, I hope somebody is out there right now driving a new car, a Corvette. Maybe you're like the Alabama parking lot. You're driving a Mustang, a Dodge Charger, because I've made you that coin this year. 71-48. Can we take a moment just to appreciate and love that ball knowledge and ball insight from the sharp here? Mac the
Uh,
knife because I'm sharp with the picks. First pick of the weekend. We're doing look, take the feelings away from this game. Look at it as just a ball game and where the value is. Alabama with the points. We've talked about it. The Tide plays great in these close games. They're going to outcoach Georgia, and they're going to go in there to Atlanta and do what we do best in that place and win this freaking football game. Take Alabama with the points. I'm not going to put the win as my thing. I believe they will win, but I'm saying take Alabama with the points plus 2.5. Bang it home, Jimmy.
Josh doesn't sound like he's too confident in his alma
That's
mater.
what I'm saying. Are you rooting for the Commodores? And they even got a game this week. What are you doing, man? Give me Alabama with the dub and the points. I feel like, it's gonna come down to Connor Talty, your guy, Matthew. And I think he's gonna score one from about 45 yards to seal this game. My game prediction, I'm gonna say 27-24 Tide.
27-24. I think it's going to be a rather low scoring game. I think Alabama's going to need to win it on defense if they're going to win this game. The offense has struggled over the course of the past couple of weeks, especially this past week, and it's going to be won or lost when Alabama's defense is on the field. And I have some confidence in Alabama's defense. So I'm going to take the Tide, 2.5 point favorite. I'm taking them outright. 5-0 versus Georgia in the SEC title game. So give me the Tide. All three of us on Alabama. You wouldn't expect anything else. I was thinking about doing the whole Pat McAfee, what's that coming down the track? Give me Alabama thing. We won't do all that. Give me the Tide. Alabama. I'm gonna go 24-17 over Georgia. So I don't know what the total is, but I'm going to assume that's the under. So I'll take the Tide. Next one. How about my Duke Blue Devils? Duke 7-5 playing in the ACC championship game because SMU choked against Cal. Miami sitting at the number 12 team in the nation, sitting on their couch watching this game. Duke unranked 7-5 versus 17th ranked Virginia. Virginia 10-2 on the year. If Duke wins this game, the ACC is probably going to get left out of the college football playoff, which is wild, but that's a reality now. So, and I'm going to go with the Blue Devils. Blue Devils a 3.5 point underdog, and I'm going to ride with my Dookie. So I will kick it to you, Mac. Virginia 3.5 point favorite.
Look, shing. Virginia Cavaliers, baby, taking down the Blue Devils, cutting those horns off. Any school with devil in it doesn't deserve to win that football game. And we're going to go with well, maybe they do if it's a different game at a different time, and that's my pick. But for the sake of this game right now, we're going to go with the Virginia Cavaliers. We're going to ride UVA to the sunset. I just think they're the better football team. It's hard to beat a team twice. They beat Duke earlier this season, so I was kind of leaning towards the old, as Matthew calls them, the Dukies. But we're going to have to go with the Cavaliers of Virginia and hope to God that I'm right.
Oh. What was the spread, Matthew?
3.5, Virginia favored.
Okay. I think I'm gonna roll with Virginia. Not because, Mac had his little squad performance, whatever this guy going. I don't think, Duke has been. I'm sorry
Slinging
if I'm.
that sword.
Yeah, he was slanging that thing all the way around there. I don't think those Blue Devils have what it takes. Really inconsistent all year. Um, yeah, I just see Virginia taking home the win with the 10-2 team. Yeah.
Yeah, Duke hasn't been good. I grew up a big Duke fan, and I'm going with the Blue Devils in this game. They lost 34-17 at home versus Virginia this year. Probably not going to go their way, but I have hope. Go Duke.
This could be the one that cost you, we could be tied, but
It's
it is
okay,
what it
Josh.
is.
It's okay. But next one on the slate, the Big 12 title game, 11th ranked BYU versus 4th ranked Texas Tech. Texas Tech 12.5 point favorite this week, and for good reason. They beat BYU 29-7 at home. And this game, it's sold out already. It will be the highest attended Big 12 title game ever, held at AT&T Stadium down there in Dallas. 12.5 point favorite, and Mac, I'll give you the honor of going first.
I'm so torn here because I've been riding with the Stormin' Mormons all year long.
BYU.
You know what I'm saying? Staying steady with the scripture. And I feel like that's what I may have to do here. I don't know, dude. I don't know. BYU wins, they're in the playoff, you think, right? Yeah, they're
Yeah,
definitely in the
well,
college
they're
football playoff because they
guaranteed.
win.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then are they in it if Texas Tech wins? No.
probably not. If Alabama loses, if Alabama gets blown out, maybe. But in that case, Miami jumps in and Notre Dame stays in, and then Texas would have a case. So probably not if they lose.
This is a tough one, man.
Come
It's a
on
lot of
back.
points.
Let him
It's a
know
lot of points, but
he's the
the
shark.
last week, last week, or so wait, you said it was last week that BYU got stomped on by Texas Tech
No, that
at
was
home.
earlier in the season.
Yeah, it was earlier.
It was at
That was
Texas
earlier in the
Tech and Lubbock.
season
And I think you rolled with
when
BYU then, I
That
tried to
was
tell
4 games ago.
Yeah.
I did. I rolled with them then, and I roll with them now. There ain't no analysis to this pick. I haven't really known that much about BYU all season. Texas Tech, they're a damn good football team, probably one of the best in the college football playoff. So all the tides point towards Texas Tech winning this football game. But when they're Mormoning, we're storming. Give me the BYU Storming Mormons.
Josh.
Well, there's a team down there in Texas that goes by the name of Tech. And those boys are playing football down there, I tell you. Give me Texas Tech over BYU covering because them boys is playing. You hear me? Mac, this is where we divide that thing, and I'm coming for your tail. Texas Tech is going to dominate BYU. It's not going to even be any question said about it. They're going to be in the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, so close to home. You don't think that these boys going to put on a show? This is Texas, baby. This is where football was born. What you got to say, Matt? Come on.
I mean, I'm so excited after this crazy thing that you just did that it makes me want to go to Texas Tech, but I don't want to abandon the Mormons.
No,
He's
the
You know
storming
Mormons
with the
what?
have
Mormons.
gone. They ain't gonna be
I was
No,
storming.
no, no, no. I hate to do. No, I'll stick with
He,
them.
he's
No,
telling. He
yeah, I'll stick
knows.
with them.
He knows what it is, y'all. I'm telling y'all.
I'll stick
so
with the Mormons.
I am rather torn because Kalani Sitake, BYU's head coach, he was rumored to go to Penn State. Penn State got a crap, or BYU got a crap ton of money, was able to keep him. The Crumble Cookies CEO put a lot of money to
Yeah.
keep him. That's how it ended up happening.
Hmm.
Because of that, BYU is going to be fired up. They got their head coach staying. But Texas Tech is a damn good football team. I'm gonna talk about their last 5 games. Beat Oklahoma State 42-0, beat Kansas State 43-20, beat BYU 29-7, beat UCF 48-9, and beat West Virginia 49-0. They are a damn good football team. First time they're playing in the Big 12 title game at Texas Tech. Quarterback played college or high school football in Texas, dreams of playing at Jerry's World. Texas Tech going to be fired up. Their fans are going to be fired up. Short drive. I'm going with the Red Raiders, pulling out the 12.5 point cover. Josh and I against Mac this week. We'll
You
see how
hear
that
me?
one goes.
Did you hear what Matthew said? I didn't even have all that stats, but look, I'm no genius, and it don't take a rocket science to let you know that Texas Tech gonna come out with this dub. So Mac, I'm sorry, you done lost already.
Next one, hell of a game. This one, in reality, probably doesn't matter. Both are probably locked into buys, even with a potential blowout. Second ranked Indiana versus first ranked Ohio State. The only two remaining undefeated teams in Power 4 college football. Ohio State, a 4 point favorite. And I'm still not really buying the Indiana hype. The Oregon win didn't really do it for me. I don't know if Oregon is great. I'm going to go with Ohio State, 4 point favorite. They blew out Michigan. They got that ghost out of their system, and I'm going to go with Ohio State to cover the 4 point spread. Mac, what about you?
It's so hard because emotionally, I want to go with the Hoosiers. It's my trainer's team here in Nashville. They're great storyline. Signetti is awesome. Love his coaching style, and he gets those guys fired up. But we're talking about an established big dog of college football, versus a team that's had a recent hype. So I'm going to go with the Ohio State Buckeyes to cover the spread.
All right, Josh.
Think I'm gonna do the same. Ohio State has looked pretty damn good all year. It was a little close. Well, I won't say it was close, but it was a little fought out battle in the first and second quarter of the Michigan game. But eventually they extended their lead. They've been lights out the whole entire season. Defensively, they look great. The freshman quarterback that's in, he's been looking phenomenal. They have a stud at wide receiver. I don't see them losing to a team like Indiana. And even though Indiana has done a really good job, they've been consistent for the last few years. I don't see a more complete team than Ohio State in the college football playoff. So
Yeah, no,
I don't
absolutely.
know.
And I would venture to say they're better than they were last year, which is crazy to say. But all three of us on Ohio State, which guarantees Mac, you will remain atop the standings next week. And next up, maybe the best game of the weekend, and it's on Friday. The American title game, 24th ranked North Texas, a 2.5 point favorite versus 20th ranked Tulane. Really interesting situation. We talked about Jamarcus Shepard finishing the season with Alabama despite being hired by Oregon State. Tulane's head coach, John Summerall, the new head coach of Florida, he will finish out the season with Tulane. They're going to have their head coach 2.5 point underdog despite being the higher ranked team. And Mac, what you got? North Texas, a 2.5 point favorite.
Not much to say here. Besides, Josh said there's a team down in Texas. And this time it's North Texas. Let's give me the University of North Texas to cover the spread in this game.
All right, Josh.
Well, there's a team called Toledo.
In
Tulane.
Ohio?
Nah, Tulane, not Toledo. My bad. Tulane in Louisiana, right? Quote me if I'm wrong.
Yes, in
I'm
New
from
Orleans.
Louisiana. I'm
I'm
from
from Louisiana.
Louisiana.
I'm gonna roll
I've
with
heard that song way too many times.
Tulane on this one, baby. I'm dividing with Mac again. I see what you
Riding the
did there.
wave with the green wave.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We
Yeah,
gonna
I'm gonna agree
swag
with
and surf out of there on Texas. You hear me?
Tulane was my G5 team to get in before the season started. Was hot on Tulane before the season started. And I'm gonna keep riding with Tulane. I think John Summerall really wants to go out. Well, you can take it two ways. He just wants to get to Florida and start it there, or he wants to finish what he started. And I think he wants to finish what he started. I'm gonna go with the green wave. Mac is on the mean green. A lot of green in this game. So we're going to the next game. Sun Belt title game. James Madison wins. They are into the college football playoff, and it's probably not going to be close. James Madison, a 23.5 point favorite versus Troy. And I'm going to go with James Madison. They need to blow him out and hope Duke wins. The Dukes are rooting for Duke, and I'm going with James Madison. Mac, JMU, a 23.5 point favorite.
Man, give me old James Madison as well. I know they've got a good offense, and I think this game, the sharp play is minus 23.5. So we're going to take that spread and hope to God. I hate going against the hometown heroes, Troy, the
Yeah,
Alabama team,
for
because
sure.
they're gritty and they're warriors down there in Alabama. But we're going with James Madison University.
Josh?
I think I'm gonna tail Mac on this. Give me James Madison for the dub, not on the points.
All right.
Troy,
Oh.
Troy's
Wait, so you're not telling me?
So you're fading Mac.
I guess I would be fading him. Okay, when I think about that. Okay, yeah, I'll fade Matt. You hear me? We can get this fade right now. Yeah, give me James Madison with the win, but not on the points.
All right. All right. Should be an interesting week. We'll figure out scheduling for next week. The college football playoff ranking shows on Sunday, so chances are it'll probably be an earlier episode next week. We'll figure that out. We'll tweet out what we do there. But Alabama's playing for a title this week. Alabama, Georgia, SEC championship Saturday. We'll recap it all, good, bad, or ugly next week. But until next time, we'll see you later. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.